Personally, I feel that Jazz is the strongest Warrior Quest entry into the Robots in Disguise line after Optimus Prime.
Despite the fact that he's a straight-up repaint Silverbolt, I think that he wears mold well on his own right.
Hello everyone, I'm Starscreamo625, and today we're taking a look at the Transformers Adventure TAV-39 Quillfire. Here is his package. It is very similar in both size and shape to the Hasbro Robots in Disguise packaging. You have artwork of Quillfire up there, some kanji, 30 years of Transformers, because 30 years of Transformers lasts till 2022, I think. Stock photography of Quillfire in his truck mode. Information on the Takara Robots in Disguise app. Quillfire again on the side. More app information. Nothing on this side of the package. And on the back, you have some stills of Quillfire from the Robots in Disguise TV series. Quillfire transforming. Some kanji. More kanji. App information once again, and then you have a cheesy image of Quillfire in an action pose and profile in kanji. If you want to read it, just rewind. So here we have Quillfire in his truck or SUV mode, and it is very reminiscent to the truck mode of Prime Bulkhead. I can get the camera to focus here. And that's not a bad thing, but it's a very compact truck mode. Because of how stocky and short his robot mode is, it all just curls up into a really small vehicle mode. But again, it pays off in robot mode because he's really nice and chunky. But he's very show accurate. He's just uniform tan copper color that is really show accurate. And I really appreciate what a good job Takara did color matching this toy to its on-screen appearance. Speaking of show accuracy, he does have his personal insignia tampographed on the hood. It reminds me of the Jungle Planet Cyber Planet Key insignia. Just has some yellow up here on his headlights. Show accurate. And then his hood can open up to reveal some molded detail on the underside of the hood. And then you have his head, which if you so choose, can be flipped out, like so. Which looks kind of silly, but you have the option. And then he has a nicely sculpted tow line up there on the front of the truck mode. He has some painted rims, painted doors and windshields, as well as some painted overhead lights, very nice. Then he has some metallic brown on his guardrails. Nothing on his taillights, which become his feet in robot mode. But I've noticed that this metallic brown that's used throughout the sides of this vehicle mode is not color matched on both sides. This brown on that side is different than the brown on that side. That brown is darker than that brown. It's not terribly noticeable, but it is there and it's a bit strange. Considering how well Takara does on their paint, but the underside of the vehicle form, Quillfire hides his robot mode very well. You can see his robot mode chest, his thighs, his feet. His head is very well hidden, so are his hands. I can't complain. And then he does have this gun, which stores via a 5mm port. It's a nice gun. It can store on either side of the underside of his legs in vehicle mode. And stays out of sight when the truck is right side up. But for transformation's sake, we'll take it out for now. Unfortunately, the gun cannot mount anywhere in his vehicle form. There is this gap between the guardrail section and the top of the truck, which I suppose you can mount it there if you so choose. It will wobble about and probably fall off eventually, but again, you have the option. price comparison, here he is next to Voyager Bulkhead from Transformers Prime. You can see they're very similar. Bulkhead, of course, being a Voyager figure, and being from 4 years ago, he is larger, he's longer, and he's taller. And then here he is with Steeljaw. And they're about the same size. Steeljaw's a bit taller, just due to the kind of weird truck that he is. Alright, I think that's it for Quillfire's truck mode. Now, alright, so here we have Quillfire in his robot mode, and Quillfire is, more or less, a bipedal porcupine, or hedgehog, or something of the like. And this toy really does his unique on-screen character model justice. The designers did a great job, and Takara really nailed the colors. Because, again, like I said, in truck mode, Quillfire is predominantly this tan copper color that is really accurate to his on-screen appearance, and is used in the correct places amongst the parts of the figure. Hasbro really botched the color scheme, and maybe it was for kid appeal. He certainly does look a little more interesting. He's not accurate, but he looks more interesting, I'll give him that. But he has, light tan, really light tan for his lower legs, for example, and then his door arms and his head assembly are this really dark brown color. So especially in vehicle mode, he looks like an amalgamation of brown parts, and it's weird. Picking up true accuracy, again, he does have his personal insignia tampographed on his hood, which is now part of his head assembly. And speaking of his head is really well done. Although the lower jaw and his eyebrows should be gray and not gold, it's not too big of a deal, but he has some nice red eyes, and it's just nicely sculpted, very show accurate. His jaw can open that far, which is nice. And then, for articulation, his head can move down that far, granted if you move the hood piece, and it can look up that far, again if you move the hood piece, and even farther if you so choose. And then his whole head assembly can rotate left and right, but only so much. And if I have to complain about one part of the figure, that's probably it, that he lacks good head articulation. His shoulders are on a ball joint, so you got full range of motion there, as well as this transformation joint, so you can get him looking more hunched than he already is. Or you can pull his arms out more, which is what I prefer. Then you do have this joint for transformation at the wheel, which can move his shoulder forward and back, independent of the headlights on his shoulders. He does have a bicep swivel, 90 degrees of movement at the elbow, and then his wrists move in and out due to transformation. He has 360 degrees of rotation at the waist. His hips are on a ball joint, so you've got full range of motion there. He has over 90 degrees of movement there at the knee, as well as a side swivel. And then his feet pivot up and down due to transformation. So all in all, he's pretty foldable, with the exception of his head assembly. Excuse me. And he's a little hard to stand, I should say, because he hunches over. But as far as the gray goes, yes, his eyebrows and his lower jaw should be gray, as well as his neck piece, or lack of neck. Those arm joint pieces should also be gray, as well as his forearms. And his knee guard should also be gray, as well as his abdomen. But again, that really looks bad, he's just not shoe accurate. Again, he comes with his weapons. Here again is his gun. It's quite thin, but I guess that's because of the bulk of the figure. It has some quills up top, and then you have this purple insignia sculpted into the gun itself, which is quite nice on both sides. And overall, it's nicely sculpted, but again, it is pretty thin. And it can store on his back like so, or it can be held in either of his hands. And his hands are sculpted to look as if they're in a trigger finger position. And that's really neat. So when he's holding his gun, it looks like he's about to pull the trigger. Not that there is any kind of sculpted trigger anywhere on the gun. But that's pretty neat. And then he does have his quills on his back, hence his name, which are very nicely sculpted. And they are on a hinge, and that's how they are in package. They're hinged down so we can fit in the bubble, I would assume, because they serve no purpose for transformation. And if I move this assembly down here that forms the top of the truck, I can bring the quills down like so. But they just soft tab up here behind his head. And you bring that panel back up. And then in the middle there is this large quill that pegs in via 5mm port. And if you so choose, it could be held in his hand, or it could be pegged into his back, because Quillfire actually does have a tail in the show, similar to Steeljaw, it's just a lot shorter. And this quill could kind of recreate that if you so choose. This assembly back here, this kibble, this back kibble, can kind of recreate that tail too, but it's much too large. But yes, via 5mm port, it would be held in his hand, but I think it comes off looking more like a corn dog or some other kind of foodstuff than it does a handheld weapon. Now, Quillfire does use it in the show as a weapon, or as a tool rather, but it's much too thick and much too round to really look like one of the very pointed quills that's sculpted onto his back. But regardless, it is a nice accessory, and it's nice that he has, two accessories. And he certainly has some options for display with them. Now, if I can get him hunched back over, we'll get down to size comparisons. Here he is next to Warrior Steeljaw. You can see Steeljaw, while he is designed to hunch over a bit, is still much taller than Steeljaw, or Quillfire, pardon me. Because how Quillfire is built, he is stockier. And the way his head rests right above his chest, he's going to end up being shorter, just inherently. It is show accurate that way, or he is show accurate that way. And then here he is next to Bulkhead, just for the heck of it, Voyager Bulkhead, Transformers Prime. You can see, because Bulkhead is 4 years older than Quillfire, and because he's a different size class, he's a lot taller. But that's to be expected. Alright, now I really enjoyed Quillfire on screen in Robots in Disguise. He was a fun character, and he has an equally fun toy. And the designer really did his unique design justice, and Takara really nailed the color scheme, the color placement, and unfortunately Hasbro just messed that up. Now, I bought this version of the figure because I couldn't find Hasbro's version at retail or online, so I dropped an extra $10 and bought this version, and I'm happy that I did. Because as much as I like the character, this is a much better representation. I really do like Quillfire's build quality, just as I like the build quality of most other Robots in Disguise Warrior class toys. He's bulky, he's stocky, and he feels good in hand. And plus, the stockiness is accurate to his on-screen appearance. It isn't just for the sake of kids. This has been the video review for the Transformers Adventure TAV-39